I'm Mike Vidan, co-founder of QuoteIQ, and after running home service businesses for over 25 years, I can tell you that one of the biggest mistakes that contractors make is assuming that declined estimates are dead leads. They think because somebody didn't accept the estimate that that opportunity is gone, and they are dead wrong. And this mindset is costing contractors thousands and thousands of dollars every single year, because the reality is a declined estimate is still a good lead. A customer that filled out an InstaQuote and never scheduled is still a lead. A homeowner that viewed your estimate 6, 7 times but never clicked accept is still a lead. If you're not tracking this data, if you're not remarketing to them later, you are leaving a massive amount of money on the table. And I know this because I've seen it happen in my own business over and over and over. Now, I remember years ago in my own pressure washing company, we quoted a customer around $1,200 for a fairly decent size exterior residential cleaning project. It was a house wash, it was a driveway, they had a little pool deck, right? The whole thing, and they declined it. At the time, most contractors, including a younger me, think, well, I guess they just weren't interested, and we move on. But a few weeks later, we followed back up with them, and what we found is actually, it's really common. They did want the work done. They actually did. They just thought that the price was a little bit too high. They wanted time to think about it. They were comparing quotes. They were getting other estimates. They were calling around. That's what people do. They needed time to talk it out. But when we walked them through the estimate again, we explained the value, we adjusted a couple things, we removed one service that they didn't really care that much about, boom, we closed the deal. And once I started paying attention to this pattern, I realized something that was really important. A huge percentage of customers who decline estimates are not saying no forever. They are saying, not right now. They're saying, I need to think about it, or I'm comparing prices, or I'm just waiting on money. I don't fully understand the value yet, or I just got busy. That is it. And once we started treating declined estimates a little bit differently, everything changed in our business. Now, before we go any further, I do want to explain something. This video is not about harassing customers. This is not call them back every 6 hours until they block your number and report you, okay? That's not what we're talking about. This is about understanding sales, understanding psychology or sales psychology, understanding customer behavior, and understanding how every service business, every home service business actually can grow, because most customers, they are not buying immediately. Those that do, that's great. We love them, but most don't, especially in the home service or the field service industry. I want you to think about it. If somebody is going to get a roof cleaned, if they're going to get their house painted, pressure washing, they're redoing their landscape, they're having some junk hauled off, whatever the case is, most people, they're going to call around. They're going to get on Google. They're going to search. They're going to compare quotes. They're going to think about the price. They're going to talk to their spouse. They're going to look at some reviews. They're going to check timing, right? They're going to evaluate their options. This is 100% and completely normal. But most contractors completely mishandle this stage of the sales process. They send the estimate, they hear nothing back, and immediately, what do? They assume the deal is dead. Meanwhile, the customer is merely thinking about it, right? They're doing all the things that we just talked about. And this is why I tell guys all of the time, the fortune is in the follow-up. And honestly, most contractors, they are way too focused on getting new leads while ignoring the leads that they already have. And these guys that haven't accepted immediately, they are still leads. Even the ones that have declined, they are still leads. Facebook ads, Google ads, SEO, LSAs, door knocking, bandit sites, all trying to get more leads, right? You got to do them. It's absolutely essential. But while completely ignoring the people that already requested estimates from them already. They're focused on all these new ways of generating the leads. That makes absolutely no sense because these are not cold leads. These are people that have already found you. They've already showed interest. They've already given you their contact information. These are people that already know who you are. They've already interacted with your business, already requested pricing, already showed interest. That is extremely valuable. And this is where systems start becoming unbelievably important. Back in the day, this stuff was pretty hard to manage. I had tons of different systems, nothing communicated together. It just wasn't good. And before that, it was all paper estimates, sticky notes, maybe notes in your phone, maybe spreadsheets. And then we just tell ourselves, yeah, I'm going to remember that. I'm going to follow up with them. And then life happens. You get busy. The jobs pile up. Employees call out. Phone is ringing. Emails come in. Text messages come in. You've got everything scattered everywhere. And guess what happens? Nothing. The follow-up, it never happens. It slips through the cracks. Now today with systems like QuoteIQ, we can actually see our customers' behavior. And this changes everything. For example, if somebody comes to our website, they fill out an InstaQuote online, we know that they did it. We know what services that they are actually interested in. We know that they cared enough to go through the process, right? They found us. They've gone to our website, they filled out the form, they've told us what they want. We know that they were curious enough to see the pricing. And if they don't schedule, that doesn't mean that this is a bad lead. Maybe the price surprised them a little bit. Maybe they got distracted. Maybe the baby was crying. Maybe the dog needed to go for a walk. Maybe they wanted to compare other competitors first. Maybe payday is next week. But now, know what we have? We have data. Same thing with estimates. If I send an estimate through QuoteIQ, I can literally see if they viewed it, when they viewed it, how many times they viewed that estimate. Think about how powerful that is. Data is one of the most powerful things that we have in our business because if somebody viewed your estimate 7 times, they are thinking about it. The customer is interested, but most contractors, again, completely miss these buying signals, either because they're unaware of them or they don't have systems in place that help them understand this. They think, well, if they wanted it, they would have already accepted it. They would have pulled the trigger. They would have said yes, and they are wrong. That's not how people work. People hesitate. People overthink. People get nervous spending money. That is human nature. That is how it works. That's how it operates. People also are out there comparing options. People also procrastinate. That doesn't mean that it's never going to happen. And honestly, sometimes we, the business owners, we are the ones that are the problem. Sometimes the estimate was too high. Sometimes we bundled way too many services together. We gave them way too many options. Sometimes the customer only cared about one thing. Sometimes we didn't do our job and we didn't explain the value properly. Sometimes maybe we rushed the process. We got too crazy. And sometimes we assumed they understood why we cost more than the cheaper guy down the street. Sometimes we just didn't do our job. And this is why the follow-up matters so much. This is why the follow-up is so important because it gives you yet one more opportunity to sell. It gives you one more opportunity to explain why you're different, why you're better. And every situation is different. Maybe one customer just needs extra reassurance. Maybe another customer, maybe they need financing. Maybe another customer only wants the driveway clean instead of the entire property. Maybe another customer just needed to wait until tax season. Maybe another customer, they simply forgot. This stuff happens all the time. I see it all the time. I hear about it all the time. I lived it all the time. I remember another customer that quoted that declined the estimate. And then 8 months later, they came back and they booked the job because we have an email in place in our email sequence. 8 months later. Most contractors would have completely forgot about that lead. And quite frankly, we forgot about it too, but we've got the email in place, the automations in place, the systems in place. So we don't have to remember. But because we had their information, they were in our system, because they stayed inside of that system, because we continued with our email automation, we continued to market to them. We did not forget about that. That opportunity came back around and we closed the business. And this is something that contractors really need to understand. Even if the customer does not buy today, that information is still so valuable. Now, they're in your database. Now, you can remarket to them later. Now they're in the email automation, holiday specials, spring cleaning campaigns, roof washing reminders, annual maintenance reminders, Black Friday promos, email campaigns, text campaigns. We've got email and text blasts within QuoteIQ you can set up. The database becomes one of the most valuable assets that your business owns. And even if they decline, you're still adding to that database. And the bigger it gets, the more powerful that your business becomes. It just continues to compound over time, because now, instead of constantly chasing strangers, you are building a pool of people that already know who your business is. They know that you exist. They have already invested some time. They've found you. They trust you. And this is where automations become even more powerful, because, let's be honest, most business owners are busy. You're wearing a bunch of different hats. You're running jobs. You're managing employees. You're answering calls. You're scheduling work. You're handling problems. You're doing estimates, putting out fires all day long, right? We all know this. We're overwhelmed in a lot of cases. Manually following up with every lead can be impossible. At least it's difficult. That's why automation changes the game. Automatic follow-up text, automatic reminder emails, automatic estimate reminders, automatic re-engagement campaigns like I was just talking about, that 8-month follow-up. It makes us money every single day. And no, this doesn't mean sounding robotic. You can still personalize everything. But the automation ensures opportunities don't disappear simply because you got busy or you forgot. And honestly, sometimes you should reevaluate the estimate. This is important to remember too, because contractors, we make mistakes. Maybe the scope was wrong. Maybe the measurements were off a little bit. Maybe the customer, they only needed a little bit of the job, a partial service. Maybe you overbuilt the package. Maybe you got a little bit greedy. Sometimes we do that. Maybe we overshoot, right? And sometimes small adjustments, it can save the sale. Maybe you can scale down that margin a little bit and get the job, not because you're desperate, but because you found a better solution for the customer. And that's business. That doesn't mean that you're not a good business person. That's sales. That's understanding objections instead of running from them. And I truly believe this is one of the biggest differences between guys that struggle and then the people that are successful business owners, right? Successful business owners, they understand a few things. The first is no is often just the start of the conversation. It's not the end of it. And this is why I love these type of systems, right? That track the customer's engagement, because it removes the guessing from the equation. And you can actually see what's happening. You can see who opened the estimate. You can see when they viewed it, how many times they viewed it, who interacted with the InstaQuote, who never finished scheduling, who is engaging with the follow-ups. We have full visibility of all of that. And that data, like I have said before, is unbelievably valuable for your business. And if you use it correctly, it can dramatically improve your close rates. You're going to see a huge increase in your close rates. And in our own businesses, we've recovered a huge amount of revenue from customers that originally declined those estimates. Sometimes 30%, sometimes 40%. That is real money. That is money that we can put in the bank. And a lot of guys are just letting these opportunities completely disappear because they assume that that customer meant no when they said no, but they didn't, right? And that's a huge mistake. And here's another thing that I want to say. Most business owners, a lot of contractors, a lot of business owners, they think that marketing only means getting new leads, right? And that's a huge no. Marketing is also staying in front of old leads. Old leads are even more valuable. They're easier to get in front of. They trust you already. The customers that you quoted 6 months ago may suddenly need the service now. The customers that thought your price was too high may suddenly realize the cheaper company, they did a terrible job and they know better now. The customer that ignored your estimate in winter may want the job done now. Maybe they were just shopping around then, but now they're ready and you stayed in front of them. Timing matters. Life changes. Situations change. Budgets change. And the businesses that stay visible, they're the ones that win. And this is why I tell people all the time, your database is money. Every estimate, every customer, every lead, every InstaQuote, every declined job, that information has value. And if you build your systems around it, you can create opportunities that most contractors never capitalize on. So if there's one thing that I want you to take away from this video, this is it. Declined estimates are not dead leads. They are huge opportunities. opportunities to follow up, opportunities to educate, opportunities to adjust, opportunities to remarket, opportunities to close later. And the contractors that understand this are going to dominate the contractors that don't. Now, if you guys want to see how to track estimates, how to view those estimates, how to follow up with the customer engagement, see how InstaQuote works, how InstaSchedule works, check out the automations, the remarketing opportunities inside of QuoteIQ, I'd love for you to check out the link below. You can start a 14-day free trial at myquoteiq.com. I really do appreciate you watching, and we will see you in the next one.